Now it's even easier to find, because if you saw Blue, you're going to remember him, and then you're going to be able to find it in between all the other podcasts that are out there.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you had pressed that. You're like, oh, we could use your face. And I was like, I was a little timid of doing so, not because, I'll be quite honest, because no one knew me in the podcasting, right? Like, I don't have visual face recognition like Mel Robbins or Simon Sinek or Brene Brown or Seth Godin. It's like, when you look at them, you know that's their podcast, right? So it's this picture of this person. It's the same with the book. I did not, on The Sum of Four, I didn't put a picture of me because no one knew me as an author. So who is this guy? Brennan, thank you for sitting down with me because we have some big changes coming up.
We do. We have some really big changes, and I'm very excited to get into it with you.
Well, I cannot wait, because if you're watching right now, Brennan has on a Gonzaga hat that's upside down, so it looks like Gonzaga, but it's upside down, and it might feel like we're underwater. And you might also notice that our title and our podcast logo has changed. And we are now going to go from Navigating No. So you're all in the right place if you have been listening and you've been subscribed and following us. And things are about to change in the sense we're changing the name to the Blue Stiley Podcast versus Navigating No, but it'll be basically Navigating No and Beyond now.
Yeah, no, it was something that came up that you came to me with. I mean, I feel like we've been talking about this from the beginning.
Absolutely.
We really have. You know, should this be the Blue Stiley Podcast or should this be something else? And I think when we first met, you had the idea behind Navigating No because it was the next book you're writing and having a podcast to support that. And I was on board with that, but I also, you know, I also saw the importance of like really positioning your name in it. And that's why we called it Navigating No with Blue Stiley.
Right.
And then just 2 months ago, I think we decided like we're going to make this switch.
Yeah, and what better time to do it than what this specific joint where we're at right now, this crossroad. And it's just interesting because when I get off of the stage as a keynote speaker, it was really difficult that I found that people, the name recognition of, oh, I have a podcast, come listen to me. But everybody was like, well, what is it called? And I go, it's Navigating No. And it was a little confusing, right? And so it was just so much easier for me to be able to say, because most people would look me up.
Yeah.
They would say,
and you're going to find the podcast there anyways, even if you look up like Blue Stiley, Navigating No is going to be the first podcast to come up. I think what the disconnect was is then you get to an Apple Podcast page, a Spotify page, and you're looking for the Blue Stiley Podcast, and all you see is a red Navigating No, and there could be somewhat of a disconnect, and I feel like also the story of like Navigating No, it's not over, but like every conversation has been based around
a specific theme
of people trying to navigate the failures and the no's and what their tagline, and and that's not, we're not really pigeonholing ourselves in that, like, but like going to the Blue Stiley Podcast, you have so much opportunity to have conversations, be a little bit more open and be not so focused on one topic.
Well, and I think that the topic was so specific that it was great because everybody could relate to it. But it was like there were only certain amounts or certain ways to overcome that rejection, failure, and self-doubt.
Yeah.
And so it was like there was so much more to talk about. And when I would speak from the stage, people were like, oh, well, you talk about building trust and meaningful relationships and overcoming that fear of rejection, failure, and self-doubt. So it was like I had so much more to talk about specific-wise from the stage. Like, let's open it up a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to go a different direction. And one of the quickest ways was to go with the brand recognition of just the name.
Yeah.
Right? And so we were brainstorming, like, how do we create a podcast name or a logo that could be not only recognizable, but fit into my brand awareness, right? And so, because everything has to thread to me as the keynote speaker. And you came up with these ideas. You're like, well, you know what, Blue, your name is so unique Let's take advantage of that. And I had never really thought of it, right? Like I'd always been made fun of my entire life because of the name. So I was like, oh, I'm a little shy on that one. But it was interesting because there are no Blue Stylies out there.
Right.
And there's a million keynote speakers, there's a million podcast hosts, but there's only one Blue Stiley. So if that was that SEO, if that was that name recognition, let's take advantage of it. And so you and I both came up with the idea, let's run with it and let's call it the Blue Stiley Podcast.
Yeah. I mean, I just think it has more legs and I think it's just more approachable and more clear of what it's going to be going for. It's your podcast and we're going to be interviewing the same type of people on the podcast. It's just the conversations will be more about your guests and trying to get to the core of like a nugget we can take from them.
Yeah.
And we can
real takeaways that you can actually start applying today. Because when I speak from the stage, I give clear takeaways that they can immediately start to apply.
Yeah.
And so it's like when I listen to another podcast like Mel Robbins or something, she brings on an expert, or the Huberman Show. It's like they have these experts that come on and they say, these are the 3 things you need to do to sleep better, or these are the 3 things that you need to be able to say. And it's like, it's so interesting to hear those items, those actions, because I want to know what it's in it for me, right? Like as a listener or as a viewer, I want to know. And so always being that negative, like this is how we overcome this rejection. This is how we overcome this failure, this challenge. It's like, it gets a little overused. And so let's open it up and let's listen to what a lot of our viewers were saying and a lot of the feedback, the comments that we were getting. Like, well, let's talk more about not only the dirt of the challenge that people have faced, but like, how do they overcome it? And now, like, what can I do? What can I actually apply? Just like I speak out on the stage. And so what better way to do that? Because it is not only working on my name brand, but it explores the topics that I'm passionate about, that I talk about. And from the stage, I would say that the way that I handle all these things is going to be different than most of the audience.
Right.
But if there's some certain nuggets, so let's bring on these experts, these high achievers, these people who have a story of achieving something, and hear their story.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how Navigating No started. And now we just want to widen it up a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I just think there's just so much ability now to have, the one thing I noticed when we were doing Navigating No is you'd get some guests on that just had like a really like huge story of how they navigated their biggest stone in their life. And it was like, it made that podcast name make sense. But then you'd have someone on that like they've overcome challenges, but like maybe it wasn't that hard for them to become the CEO or whatever. And so like we would find, I'd find like times where we're just like, well, they weren't really navigating but like they were overcoming challenges. But like now we can just like, we can still talk about that, but we can we can get more to like the lessons and the education.
Well, and I think it is about the education. It's about making our community better, our world a different place and a better place, and that we can all do better. And so what better way to do that than to talk about optimism and kindness and community and sharing and lifting each other up and supporting. And it was interesting, but as we went along, my communications expert, she was like, hey, you know what? You're talking about Navigating No. And FYI, I love the logo, Navigating No. I got to give major kudos to Brendan because he was the one who created the logo, and I want to use that as the book cover as well. But it was awesome, and I loved it, but it was so specific that we needed to, okay, what are we going to change and make a little differently? And everyone kept talking to us. It's like, we understand that your favorite color is red and black, but it's so like kill and death and Darth Maul and Darth Vader. And it was like a little confusing because I talk about kindness and optimism and trustworthiness and community and being relatability. And it was like, and I had to let go of that. Yeah. I did. And I was a little concerned about that. And so that was one of the reasons that we wanted to change our color scheme and go along with more openness. And we're doing a rebrand on my website and my speaking business, but then also with the podcast. So it's like this whole huge rebrand and refresh, and you're a part of that. And Carolyn came up with the idea like, it's a little too death and kill, right?
Yeah. Do you think that like having your name be blue makes you lead away from being anything like the color blue?
Well, people always ask me, like, what's your favorite color? And I'm like, well, it's not blue. Right? Because I hated it. I hated the color blue because it meant that everybody was going to make fun of me, right? And my favorite color was red.
Oh,
and it, because of Darth Maul and Darth Vader. But I think that I shy away from it because I associate it with me being picked on and made fun of. But then it took you, it took Carolyn, it took Heidi, my wife, like everybody trying to tell me, like, your name is so unique.
Yeah.
Let's play with it and utilize it and leverage it. And so that's exactly, you pulled the trigger and I was like, all right, I got to do it.
Yeah,
So,
I was thinking when I put this on the screen and change these from red to blue, I was like, oh, this is a lot calmer.
right. And you do a SWOT analysis for like marketing. People call blue is a calming color and relaxing and trustworthy. I'm like, that's what I talk about.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be red, black, and death. Right?
That's funny. I mean, I feel like the last like 4 podcasts I've like helped start, the majority of them have been red too. So like we are kind of going away from the red is like, it feels like a big transition.
It is it's a hard transition from, because I had to relinquish that.
Yeah.
But I had to believe in other people's opinions rather than be it all on me.
Yeah.
Right. And that was hard. And I was like, oh, I did not want to release that. But I have a feeling that everyone else is right and I was wrong.
And I will say, if you're watching on camera, this book looks a lot better with this blue in here, because like it really is like it's striking when it's in this space as red. When it was all red back here, it kind of just blended in.
I agree.
But like now it's like, oh, there's the sum of 4.
There it is. But now we have to change the image of the next book, Navigating No. So
yeah.
I love that. And I just think that the transition was hard for me to accept and to relinquish that. But I'm glad I did. And I'm so glad that we're introducing everybody. And today's basically the day that we start that.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to. I know you put a little list together of some of your best and favorite moments on the Navigating No podcast. I'd love to like dive into like what's your top 10 list of your moments of the Navigating No podcast.
Oh, well, let's talk really quick about the fact that we've done it for over a year. We're 63 episodes in.
Yep.
And I've learned so much. I've learned how to utilize YouTube. I've learned to become a boss and bring people on. I've learned how to the back end of what it is to produce an actual episode. And thank goodness I have you, because it is way harder than I ever thought it would be. And so sometimes you have to hire out and scale out and bring somebody on who knows way more than you. And so these are just these little lessons that I've learned from the year and a half that we've been doing this. Yeah. And I want to say that I was using it to not only catapult my values and my mission and my message as a keynote speaker, but also to get content for the next book, Navigating No. And it has hit on all points, because I've had on some amazing guests and I've learned so much as an interviewer to work on my improv, to work on my speaking skills. But it's just like, I'm staying curious and learning the whole time. And so every guest has brought some special nugget on. I was just interviewed by Nina Culver with the Splash magazine. And she was like, who are some of your favorite guests? And it was like, it was hard to pick just a few, because there've been so many great ones. Yeah. And so it was hard, but at the same time, there was always a nugget in every single person's episode. And so that's something that we want to bring with the Blue Stiley podcast as well. But the top 10 Letterman, I guess basically what I would like to say is that to navigate being told no, overcoming rejection, failure, and self-doubt is basically, one is acceptance. To recognize and embrace the no as a part of life. Instead of resisting it and fearing it, just know that it's going to be a part of it. And being rejected is not the worst thing that can happen. So you have to be the doer and not the victim. And Jen Teskey had mentioned something that Josh Shipp had mentioned. He's a school speaker, and he basically said, like, you can either get bitter or you can get better. And I love that quote, because a quote can absolutely change your life. And that really hit home with me. So that was a good one.
That's great. Yeah.
The next one would be to basically find a way through it. If something truly matters to you, there's always a path forward. So how do you solve it? How do you pivot? And how do you move on from it? Because you're not the only person who's ever gone through it, right? And Josh Hassan we had him on, and he basically, his coming to Jesus moment was he had gone through depression and through alcoholism, and it was like all these things. And it took his dad to say, how do you feel about starting over every single time at zero? And that was that one thing that made him change. And he was like, oh, like, I don't want to start at zero anymore.
Yeah.
And so it was like this repeat process. And until you look at the lesson that's being told to you, you can't do anything about it. And so that was that moment that he decided to make that change and that switch. And so you got to find a way through it. You have to solve that problem. That was a great one. Using rejection as fuel would be number 3. Let loss, rejection, and failure become a trampoline to propel your life. And Anna Mazzeo had mentioned that she's the Wobi Italia director, and she just used it as fuel, as a trampoline to catapult herself up even farther. So growing up, it was hard in her life, but she used that to get ahead in life.
Yeah.
And I think that we had so many guests talk about that.
Yeah.
It was it was so neat because that was her little mantra. She just said, okay, I use it as a trampoline to jump.
Yeah.
I use no as an on. I turn the letters and I turn it to on. That's my fuel. That's my personal mantra that tells me that I can do it and I want to prove this person wrong. Manny Hockheimer, he said, like he had to get the approval of his dad. Right. And he was looking forward to that approval, and his dad didn't believe in him. And he did everything he could to get great grades and just show him that he could pass that final test and that exam on one of the hardest classes that he took. And it was like, that was his one thing. You have to find something to self-talk yourself through it. And that could be a mantra. It could be a simple word. Sandy Zimmerman, before she did the American Ninja Warrior, she was always like, Sandy, you were born for this.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what is it that you tell yourself every single night? And that was just a big hit that a lot of our guests actually talked about.
Yeah. No, those are great.
It looked good, looking for that special mantra. Another one, number 4, would be shift your mindset. Change your perspective and see challenges as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles, because the best could be right in front of you and you would never know it. You would never know. And that's exactly what Anna did to become the director of Wobi, and so many of our other guests did. It was just like, if you don't take that chance, you're never going to know. And not knowing could be more harmful in the end. And I think so many of our guests tapped into that.
Yeah, I was thinking, why can't I think? I mean, we can edit this, but the guy who helped was like a cartoonist.
Oh, Dave Warren. He got let go by Fox.
Yeah.
Because of some post that he had done that he wasn't supposed to do about the Sons of Anarchy motorcycle.
Yeah.
And one day he had the greatest job in America, having fun and getting paid great, and then it was gone.
Yeah.
And that was just like this giant slap across the face. And what did he do? He had to take it and he had to move on, and he took that chance. But now he's even more happy doing his own thing and changing lives every single day.
Yeah, totally.
The other one would be, number 5, would be to not take it personally. Most people are focused on themselves, and it's not about you. And so how you change your perspective or your mind is very, very important. Boyd Morrison came on and he talked about like going in for an audition for an actor or model, and the director is looking at you. He could care less. Right. And it's like you have no control of what's going to come of that audition. So don't take it personally. It could be the fact that you reminded him of his brother and he hates his brother. Right. So it's like, do not take it personally. Just take it as feedback and moving forward. And that's what Boyd talked about.
Yeah.
Another one was to see it as a not now rather than a hard stop. Because when you're told no, or you're rejected by somebody, or you don't get that job, or you don't get that promotion, it's not the end of the world. It's like, okay, maybe it's not right now. What can I do to change moving forward? What feedback can I do and improve on myself? And Christy Peterson, my modeling agent in Seattle, she basically used it as like, it's just not now. And she used the reference of Cindy Crawford, how she went to 16 different modeling agencies before she finally got accepted.
Yeah.
And then when she did, she became one of the greatest supermodels of all time, if not the best.
Right.
But if she had quit at number 1, we would never have had Cindy Crawford.
Right.
And so it's just not now. It's the right place, the right time, the right agency, the right perspective, the right job that you're interviewing for. So that was a huge one. And a lot of people talked about that. I loved that we had people on about how to deliver a no.
Yeah.
Because delivering a no can be just as difficult as accepting a no from someone. And we had Natalie Fairchild talked about the firing process of people within HR. Angela Dennison talked about that, about starting her being an entrepreneur, a woman of impact, and having a comedy club and having to let people go.
Yeah.
Right. And to do it empathetically, because she's been in their shoes before. She's worked her way up through the comedy club.
Yeah.
And so she's been in every single one of those positions, and just empathetically taking that person by their hand and saying, it's okay.
Yeah.
Right. It not only opens it up, but it makes it a diplomatic release, right? Of that no. And that was hard, because it is hard to accept a no, but it's also hard to deliver that no. And Mary Wharton tapped on that too. It's like, as a modeling agent and booker, just because you're not accepted by that agent, it doesn't mean it's you. It's hard for her to tell somebody, like, you're not a right fit for us right now.
Yeah.
But maybe there's another agency, or maybe come back in a year, or maybe, create a new skill set, maybe put some muscle mass on, or learn a new skill, get a performance driver's license, become more valuable to us. And it's just not right now. And so many people hit on that.
Yeah.
Number 8 would be build a confidence team. Surround yourself around people that have gone through that before, because you're not alone. Somebody has lost their arm. Somebody has lost their job. And we have many of our guests dealt with death. And it was hard. And it's like, the day that you're feeling bad about yourself, it's like, look at other people. There are people who are less fortunate and have less, or have gone through trauma way harder than you. And so that should be that acceptance, responsibility right then, of that moment of like, okay, somebody else has gone through this before. And maybe you can connect with those people. So why not do that?
Yeah.
And then Bert Thornton talked about it, of like, the easiest way to get through that is to find a mentor. Find somebody who's gone through some challenge that they can help you put the guardrails up and make less mistakes, and avoid those awful potholes. To find your gorilla and walking through the jungle. There's no better way, right?
That's his book, right?
That is his book. The other one is, it just doesn't matter in the end. Like, when you're rejected and you fail, in the end, it's not the end of the world. It is not like being ejected from an airplane at 1,000 miles per hour, where you go to a fiery death and your face melts off like an Indiana Jones. It's not. Right. It's just a hard no, and it hurts sometimes, but it's not the end of the world. And it's your mindset shift. And Russ Banham came on, and one of his greatest lines was at the end, and he didn't get the Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh,
right?
he didn't get it. He chose not to do it.
He turned it down.
He turned it down.
And so that was one of his hardest no's, right?
Yeah.
And so it was like, oh, okay. But in the end, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What matters is our family and our experiences and our memories that we have to share with other people. And so taking that perspective is so much different. And the last one would be just to never give up. To always continue putting those reps in, because you're going to get better. The failures and all that entire journey, that is what makes you more successful. It makes you stronger in the end. Is that the journey full of all of those pitfalls and aches and pains and ouchies that's what makes you stronger in the end. And one of my favorite guests was Demetrius Petrescu, who plays the new Darth Vader. And you want to talk about navigating no?
Yeah.
There should be a picture of him in the encyclopedia. Yeah. Because whether it was from So You Think You Can Dance, to getting into Cirque du Soleil, to landing the lead or the suit actor of Darth Vader in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Like, you talk about failing and being rejected. His story is fantastic. Yeah, and he just never gave up.
I mean, I got the chance to interview him on one of my podcasts, and the fact that he has gotten to where he is today, and started as coming to America as an immigrant, and not knowing the language and having to like fight through all that. Like, I mean, all the no's he faced before he had to face all the other no's is, to me, it would be insurmountable. Like, I could see how someone could be really negative coming from a place like that, but to make your life so positive, like how he has, is inspiring.
Well, and it's like, he could dwell on it. He could let it control him and he could go to the dark side, right? But he didn't. He chose to continue on and never give up and continuously improve himself. And as a result, he's become successful beyond his wildest dreams.
Yeah.
Right.
I will also say, like, in the same vein, our friend Nathan O'Brien is never give up, is just encapsulates him as well. Just he's fought so hard to make Lilac City Comic Con such a huge thing in Spokane, and to have it start with, like, I think he had like
101 people, and he had one person cosplay, and it was one single stormtrooper.
Right. and I imagine after those first couple early years of doing Lilac City Comic Con, when it was like, I think he after year 5 he'd finally surpassed like 1,000 attendees. Like, I imagine you could be like, I don't know if I should do this anymore, to now having like 10,000 plus come to Lilac City Comic Con.
And he told me, he was like, you start small. You want the 10,000, but be realistic, and just start small and then start to work through it, right? If it's a good idea, it's eventually going to take off.
Right.
And I just, it was funny, but it took Comic-Con after Comic-Con every year. It grew and grew and grew and grew. It wasn't immediately the first year, so he never gave up and he continued doing it, that being Nathan O'Brien.
Yeah.
And that is basically, in a nutshell, really the nuts and bolts of navigating no. And I loved every moment and every conversation that we had. And I know what another shout out to Brennan is that he would always be listening in the studio room here, and he would always chime in, and you would always say, hey, I learned this, I learned that, because you were taking notes just as much as I was. So it was a great learning experience for me to have that Navigating No podcast. And I'm so excited to take this change and just not only rebrand it, but then to expand on it. Yeah. Because it's not going to change. It's going to be Navigating No and beyond. We're just opening it up to talk more about building trust, meaningful relationships, and how to overcome the fear of that rejection, failure, and self-doubt.
So, and I will just emphasize to everyone that's listening right now too, like, the Navigating No episodes aren't going anywhere. Like, they're not disappearing. They're still there. They're just under the new banner. So you can definitely keep on listening to those past episodes that we mentioned today. And yeah, I'd love to get into the visual identity and logo of the new Blue Stiley podcast. It designed by a friend of mine, Josh Thomas of Legit Creative. And I recommended him off of another logo I had him help me design for another podcast. And man, I got to say, like, after all the back and forth, I really feel like he nailed it.
Oh, I do too. I do too. And it took about a 2.5-3 week process to create a logo. And I went to school for marketing, and I thought that I could do it. You thought that you had done Navigating No, and you have a background too, but you and I both agreed, like, I think somebody could do it better than us. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
But it took a combination of your thought process, mine, Josh's, Carolyn's, like all of my friends that I did a beta test on these. And it was like, what do you think? Heidi chimed in. She was like, I like this. I like that. I don't like this. I do this. And we came up with this. And Josh knocked it out of the park with this. And I think it plays on my name, Blue, obviously, even though it's not my favorite color. But it stands out, and it's bold, and it still stays along the line of my speaking business, because as a speaker, everything has to thread together and point back to me as the speaker.
Yeah.
And now I think not only is the brand awareness more visible, but it's relatable and it can thread back.
Yeah. And also, like, this isn't showcasing it right now, but as you saw when you clicked on listening to the podcast, you now see a smiling Blue Stiley on the cover.
Right.
And that was something we had talked about from the beginning on Navigating No, was like incorporating your face onto a podcast. Because if you go to any podcasts on the internet, like even my podcast, they usually are like, you want to have some facial recognition or smiley face or have it represent the tone of what you're trying to, convey on the podcast. And I was always kind of disappointed that we didn't implement your face into the Navigating No podcast art, but now we have it, and now it's even easier to find, because if you saw Blue, you're gonna remember him, and then you're gonna be able to find it in the podcast and in between all the other podcasts that are out there.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you had pressed that. You're like, oh, we could use your face, and I was like, I was a little timid of doing so, not because I'll be quite honest, because no one knew me in the podcasting, right? Like I don't have visual face recognition like Mel Robbins or Simon Sinek or Brene Brown or Seth Godin. It's like when you look at them, you know that's their podcast, right? So it's this picture of this person. It's the same with the book. I did not on The Sum of Four. I didn't put a picture of me because no one knew me as an author. So who is this guy? So I was a little scared of doing so at the very beginning, but then at the same time, it was like, what better way than to stand out than to be that open me, right? Because from the stage, I do handstand walks. I'm like this open, kind person. And I'm like, oh, I'm super optimistic. I'm jumping off the wall. I'm full of energy. We need to show that. We need to case that.
Definitely. Like I said, I've already reassured everyone that the episodes aren't going anywhere, and we've already said this a lot, but like the core of the show isn't changing. It's about having conversations with the people that are just doing amazing things in the world.
Well, so that they can help lift our community. And make people better. Right. And I think we need that in our world right now. We need a little more optimism and a little more kindness. And it's like, what better way than to share these great stories or these great achievements and how they've done it in different aspects. We're not just that navigating that now.
Yeah. And I think one of the things is, I don't think we never pigeonholed ourselves into the people that we had on, but they always were kind of like, we needed to have someone on that had experienced success in a very like maybe public way or in a very extreme way. And sometimes like people who are successful, they kind of blend into the background. And it's not, I want to get people on that like who are super successful, but you might not know about them and tell their story of how, or tell their story partially. And then also like you said, I want to extract information from people to like really to learn about how to become a better person and human and better business owner, better dad, better
entrepreneur,
runner.
Parenting. Yeah, absolutely.
Like all those things. It's like, I want to like, that's the kind of podcast I want to listen to is like, how do I like make myself better? And I think navigating some people might find that interesting, and I find it interesting, but like it's not for everyone. And now I think like it's gonna just be so much more broadened to like this is everybody can listen to this episode and everyone can listen to this podcast and take something away from it.
I agree with that.
And that they couldn't before.
Well, no, but at the same time, and that's why we brought different guests on, right? So every episode, and you coined this, like it's a choose your own podcast, right? It's choose your own adventure podcast.
Exactly.
And it was true. It was like, oh, I want to learn about how to start a franchise. Well, I'm going to listen to Natalie's episode. Oh, I want to learn all things Star Wars. So I'm going to listen to James Coleman collecting Star Wars vintage toys. And it's like, there's something for a lot of different people, but really the overall arc was, how do we make it better for ourselves? What nuggets can we take from these people that they are relatable, they are approachable, and that they have a story that might resonate with us? And when from the stage, I want to be that person that is relatable, that I can not only show someone that, hey, you can get to the water in the desert, I can show you the way, but I can also hold your hand through it, or I'll show you how to get there. Right? And it's like, I think that most of our guests, I want to move forward. Like, how did you get to the water? And once you got there, what did you do? Right. And it's just making us better. It's making us improving our lives, improving our families and our community. And I just think that that's something that we could do a better job at.
Yeah. And I also think that this is a great opportunity to get on past guests that you had on and we can have a whole new conversation because it's now not based around the old topic.
The old navigating no.
Yeah,
right.
it's based on something completely different. And to kind of talk about the Choose Your Own Adventure podcast, I say that because I really strongly believe that like we don't bring on guests that like promote something that they're doing. I mean that like something that like I think we've had maybe a couple of people like releasing a book near when we were interviewing them, or maybe we were promoting an event, maybe, but like everything that we every interview that we did is very evergreen, and they can all live in their time capsule, but like if you listen to this 5 years ago, the stories they might be different now, but like they're so still poignant, you know?
Well, and I think moving forward, we're going to really hit on topics like leadership and entrepreneurship and financial. We can talk about building trust, whether that's in customer service or in hospitality, how to leverage your differences, because these are the things that I talk about from the stage, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how do you stand out? How do you leverage your uniqueness? And how do you accept that there's no one like you? How do you build trust with people? How do I remind people that it's so simple to build trust and meaningful relationships, and what the ROI of building those kinds of relationships is all about? And so bringing people on of how they do those things just broadens our topic, and we can explore different avenues and just make the podcast that much more valuable for everybody.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited to go on this journey with you again. And I want to, I've been to tease our first guest.
Yes.
I've been asking you to have this person on for a really long time, since probably the beginning. And
you're not alone. You're not alone. Like, many people have asked me to bring this special guest on, and I've been like, I don't know. I don't know. Should we do that? Should we not do that? But so,
I wanted them to come on like very, very early, and there was no reason why we didn't do it. But now, since we're having this nice little changing of the brand, I thought the very first guest would be great. Your wife Heidi would be a great guest to have on, because I'm sure she's navigated a lot of no's from you in her life. But I'm just excited to see you two have this conversation when we record. I think I gave it away. Did I?
You did. But that's okay, because you know why? Because that is going to be our next episode. That is going to be our first episode. And what I love is that what better way to open it up? Who knows me better than Heidi?
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are reasons that we have connected so well, whether that's our parenting style, whether that is our work-life balance, whether that's our health and fitness, whether that is, travel, like what our goals are. And her story is amazing too. And she has absolutely navigated some no's in her life, but I really want to bring her on and talk about like how she has dealt with becoming who she's become, because she has grown so much. And I've wanted her on the podcast, and this would be her first podcast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm pretty excited about that too. But her story is just amazing, and I look up to her so much. And what better way to start it off with someone with the last name Stiley too.
Right. Yeah. I'm interested to hear her story and how she became to where she's at now, working for Alaska, and how she's dealt with you for the last however many years.
That's the hardest part. And she is the greatest mom. She is. And it's so fun, because we're human, and we talk together about parenting and about finance, and about like our jobs and how things are going, and having you talk about a support system and a cheerleader. She is my greatest supporter.
Yeah.
And so, but I think that's also goes two ways, right? And I think there's so much to pull from her, and I'm very excited to interview her.
Well, me too. We're kind of closing it up here.
I do want to ask you.
Yeah.
Was there something that stood out in the Navigating No podcast that you would want every listener to know? Because it's interesting. Well, we always end our interview with that. Like, what is the one thing that you would want our audience to know? But what was your one takeaway, whether it's funny or whether it's not? Was there something that just stood out that you remember more than anything else? I'll give you a second.
No,
I'll throw one out for you.
Because there's so many.
There are so many. It's hard.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
But you.
TS the Solution.
Yeah.
He came on, and he was like, it was so funny. And the way that he spoke about just like like being knocked down and starting over and being terrified to start his own business. And he goes, but the one thing that he tells kids now is that he's like, you have everything at your fingertips now. And he mentioned this with the question I asked, like, oh, what would you tell everybody? He goes, there's this great website out there. And he paused for an awkward long pause, and it's called Google. And I for some reason, it hit home with me because it was like, Google is like, it's so amazing for anybody wanting to start a business or learn about money or parenting. It's like, just ask Google. Yeah. And the kids today, all they have to do is do that. And it was a fun line, and I laughed out loud, and it was one of the most memorable lines throughout the entire thing.
Yeah. I think what I will say is I don't think it's one thing that happened, but like you've had a lot of entrepreneurs on the podcast, and I'm an entrepreneur myself, like with a podcast studio. And during the time of the podcast, like I've had some ups and downs of like, you know, am I going to make my podcast studio a full-time gig? Like I actually went back working at a marketing agency for about 6 months during the middle of all this. And then I made the decision about another 6 months ago that I was going to leave that marketing job and just really commit to this full time. And listening to the stories of all the business owners who have failed and then but rose up from that, like really encourages me to keep going. Like I've been doing this business for 5 years now, and I know like the saying is like, if you can get past 2 years, like you've made it. And like, I feel like if I can get to that like 10-year mark, then I think by then I'll have made it with Spokecast. So I can say after 10 years, I've been doing this for a living, because it's been growing pains over the last 5 years. And, but I really feel like I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, like about making this business successful. And,
you're just constantly reminded by some of the guests,
and I'm just constant. And like it's a constant reminder from your guests, and that not quit and to not give up. But I imagine I'm just going to keep on learning more and more like about that now.
Well, and I think we can expand on that, but I will push the brakes on you right now and say that you are valuable, because you have like Inletter's Best local podcast. Like you are successful and you have gotten that traction. And so I'm telling you that the reason we are where we are now is because of you.
And I should have heard that. I've heard this enough on being on recording the podcast, is like success is not always determined by how much money you make. And I know that. It's just, I think in this day and age, it's hard to like escape, especially when you're running a business. Like I wish I could just do this for free and not make money. And like money was not, like, I shouldn't say not make money, but like, and money wasn't like part of it. I wish I could. I wish I could just do that.
Well, and Tansy Johnson, one of our last guests, talked about that too. Yeah. It's like taking that leap of faith and jumping and diving all in and changing careers or whatever. Even if the money's not there, it's like believing in what you want to do and knowing that you're making a difference. And so you tap into something that I would love to finish on, and that is that one of the greatest rewards of doing the podcast for as long as we have, for our 63rd, 4th episode, is some of the comments and feedback that we get from our listeners or our viewers. And one of the greatest things that I want to continue doing and actually expanding on and hoping that we get more comments like this, because we've gotten some negative ones too. And I've actually asked Brendan, I'm like, how do you respond to this? Right? Like calmly, right? Right. Because you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. But one of the greatest things that I have learned and that has filled my bucket as a podcast host of the Navigating No Show, and that I want to continue on and expand with the Blue Stiley Podcast, is when I get a comment or some kind of feedback that says, this is exactly what I wanted to hear today, or I needed to hear.
Nice. Yeah.
And that makes me want to continue on, because whether I'm on the stage and someone comes up to me after I speak and they're like, Blue, that really tapped into what I'm going through. It really, that's what I needed to hear. that changed my perspective. I never thought of it that way. Now I'm going to. I didn't know that I had this kind of relationship with my dad, but I do now. And it's like, you've changed my life. Our guests and this podcast is a platform that might help somebody.
Yeah.
And just being able to reach even more people and to be able to affect people in a positive and optimistic way, I think is my goal moving forward. That's my audacious goal that I'm going to go forward, trying to do and bring more to our audience and our viewers.
Love it. I'm excited, and I would encourage anyone that's listening to the show, like, please, like, share the podcast with a friend, with your group chat, share it on your social network, find your favorite episode and put it in your story, and also leave reviews. Like, as someone who produces a dozen podcasts, like, reviews and getting people to interact on where the podcast lives is like, it just helps the podcast algorithm so much. So please leave reviews, leave comments in Spotify, leave a written review on Apple Podcasts, leave a comment in YouTube, like the video, all the things. Like, it really does, like when I say this, like, it really does help. Like, like the Instagram posts too. Like, just like, if I know you see it, like, I know people are seeing it.
A lot of people don't know that it's free to subscribe.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
It is. It doesn't. It helps us, and it helps us reach more people. So if there's something that you've heard in one of the podcasts or in our future podcasts or even on today that has helped you or changed you, share it. Let people know about it. Let people know, like, because currently we're our own voice. Like, everybody, we're sharing our like the podcast, and we're basically our own market, right? Our own brand, PR. And if there's something that resonates with you, please share it. Let everybody else know about the podcast, because we do want to make a difference at a greater, create more reach and be more influential. But if there's something on here that hit home with you, tell us about it too.
Yeah,
like,
tell us.
I love when people tell that really hit home.
Yeah, let us know. Like, I'd love to know what your favorite moments in the podcast were. I'd love to, like, and find that moment and then clip it for you so you could share it. Like, it would be a really cool thing to, like, have people, like, responding to their favorite parts of shows. Or, I mean, and that's there's ways to do that on YouTube, but, like, please let us know. Like, I would love to, like, make some clips based on people's favorite moments. Or
let us know who you think would be a good guest. Because it's not that easy to get. You talk about navigating a no, right? Like, I reach out to people, I'm like, hey, I think you have a great story, you have a good message. Would you like to be on? And I get ghosted all the time, or people say, yeah, I will, but they never sign up. And so but we're looking for guests that you've heard somebody's story and you think that it should be shared because it might have changed your life, and you would not be the only person from that story to be changed. And so why not bring more people on that our guests want to hear?
Definitely.
From.
Yeah, no, I going back to, like, one of our most popular episodes was Principal Genteski, and and we've had Hollywood movie stars on here. We've had a lot
Michelin, of people rated chefs. Like, we've had
directors,
Olympic athletes.
Yeah,
we've had directors. We've had a wide range of people, and I feel that the reason that episode took off is because it was authentic, it was genuine, and she shared it. Yeah, and everyone within her community also shared it and supported her and her message. And it was a deep message. Yeah. It really, really was. And I would suggest definitely listen to it. It's one of my favorites.
And so I think my point to that is like, it doesn't need to be like someone that is very, like, famous or well known. Like, there's people that, that are in the shadows that exist that, like, are super successful, but they just haven't been able to tell their story, and this could be a great opportunity, like, to
a platform that they can share that story and change a life and make a difference in this world.
And when you say that, I was just like, well, now there's just so many more people I can invite on this, help you get on this podcast.
Well, we're going with Heidi Stiley first,
right?
And I'm so excited to interview her. And she was I think she blushed a little bit when I asked her, and she was like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah." Well, Brennan says to do it, so no, I'm so excited. I'm excited for our change, but to expand beyond navigating no.
Absolutely.
And thank you for being a part of this, Brendan, and being the catalyst that has pushed me beyond my limits. Thank you, Carolyn, for really bringing everything into focus and really going that direction. Josh Thomas, thank you for this amazing logo. I'm super excited for the light blue and just making fun of my own name. And Tom Falcone, thank you so much. Like, there's so many people and our guests. Thank you to our guests and our listeners, because man, it has been a great ride, and I love every moment of it. And I love that feedback. I love those comments. Keep them coming, please, and let us know who you would love to have on, because I'll reach out to them. I surely will.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited for this new direction. Nothing's changing too much except for the new name and the branding a little bit.
Well, and like we said, is a new name, the Blue Stiley Podcast. It's going to be the same mission, so let's go.
Let's do it.
All right. Thanks, Brendan.
Thank you.
Thank you to all our listeners, too.
Peace.
If this episode brings you value, or you know someone who could benefit from it, the best way to support the show is by sharing and subscribing. It's completely free and helps us reach more people. And if you have any questions, feedback, or guests you'd like me to interview, drop a comment while you're there. I'd love to hear from you. And most importantly, thank you for tuning in. And let's continue sharing optimism and positivity.